All right, welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Leadership Ready Room Chats. I'm Brandon Jenkins here with my co-host Tom Brother Murray, and one of the things this week that Tom and I were talking about, and yesterday, which has actually become our routine. We have our weekly sync on Tuesdays, and of course, that's a great time to talk about, what's coming up for us, what's resonating with us as leaders right now that we can talk about to all of you during Leadership Ready Room Chats. And the idea that was resonating with us is what got you to where you're at right now might not necessarily be what you need for this next chapter, for this next role, for some type of shift you're about to make, from one environment to the next. And there's a whole bunch of different contexts where that would be a factor. But for a lot of leaders, and this is true for me, and I think I can speak for Tom. I'll let him speak for himself here in a second. But when you're used to operating one way, used to being one way in one environment, when you're moving into a new environment, I think you naturally want to hold on to a lot of what worked before, a lot of the way you were before. And at the same time, you start to just become a little bit disoriented, realizing that, wow, this new context, this new environment, this isn't quite the same, and I need to figure some things out. So when you think about that, what comes up for you, brother?
Yes, it's true for me as well. One of the thoughts that was going through my mind as you're sharing all that is this notion of identity crisis, which is how I think it can sometimes feel. I don't think it is necessarily an identity crisis, but and let me also go back and say that I think this ties in very much to the last couple of chats we've had, uh, where it's time to make an adjustment, right? You're leveling up. You are changing roles. You are changing objectives. Something's changed, and now what got you here is maybe doesn't serve you as well as it used to. And I think the larger the transition, the more likely this is to come up. And so, to make it personal, you and I both did 20 plus years in the same organization, at least at the macro level. And there is a culture, there is a way of doing things, there are skill sets and attributes that helped us succeed for over 20 years, over 25 years. And while some of those skills and attributes and ways of doing business are probably still serving us well today, others are not. And I think trying to figure out which ones are and which ones aren't is hard. And it's especially hard to do on your own, which is, I think, where we're going to take the conversation. Um, and it's just, I found it very easy to just go back to the same way of doing business. Hey, for 20 plus years as a Navy pilot, I did X, Y, and Z. I led people. I focused on these areas. I emphasized these things, and we had great success. Well, why was I struggling for the last year and a half in this new business I'm making? Right? Clearly, I think I've demonstrated some leadership aptitude over the years. Why was I struggling? Well, not all the same things are working, and it took some outside intervention to break the cycle. So I think we're probably going to the same place here. What does it feel like in the moment when this starts to happen? How do you realize it?
Oh man, what's it feel like? I'm trying to tap into that, right? To me, it feels like I've got a fog. Like there's a fog in my brain, and maybe that's stemming from confusion because it's like I'm pretty man, you look up one day and you're like, I'm pretty successful for the transition piece, right? It's like, wow, I had a successful career, 4 years the academy, 22 years active duty, and then I retire. And it's like, what? Why aren't things clearer to me? Like, why don't I know exactly what I should be waking up, doing this every single day, right? Like the structure that you leave behind, you no longer have that. You could be in an environment where you had a team, maybe you had another boss, and your priorities were clear, the mission was clear, and so you could wake up, you could plan for the day, the week, the month, right? And then all of a sudden now in this new context, you're that. None of that's being done for you. As an example, it could be a shift from you're an individual contributor, you're an expert, I was the best, you're the best pilot in the command, and now all of a sudden you have a division, and you have like 40 or 50 people, and you're used to just showing up, strapping on that aircraft, and going flying every day. And so then you're wondering why, when you just show up and you just are doing your thing in your lane, you don't understand why over a week, 2 weeks, a month, the team is not really responding and doing what you think they should be doing. Right? Because why? Because you're just doing the same thing you always did. And I think that translates into all types of different shifts. And for me, that feeling is that foggy brain, frustration, just maybe that agitation. So listener, like whatever that feels like for you, when you start to become agitated or frustrated at something that maybe somebody's just not doing what you think they should be doing. If you're a parent, you could probably really easily tap into that, right? Um, God, that's a great one. That's talking about transitions, brother. You know,
Yeah. Big
going from
transition.
like single, and then you're married, and you're having a great marriage there, and all of a sudden you're a parent, and it's like, guess what?
What
You
happened?
can't communicate the same way to that kid. So, and that's if you tap into that, man, that's like frustrating. It's like great, joyful, and frustrating, and like you just are agitated and all those things at the same time. So I guess I'll pause there. That is kind of what it feels like to me
Yeah.
when we hit one of these big transitions.
That all resonates with me. I'd also add, for me, loss of confidence, right? I feel like certainly the last half or more of my Navy career, my confidence as a leader was high, and I've started to second guess myself, right? I've started to lose confidence, and the other thought that has come up for me is this thought or maybe feeling that I just need to work harder. I just need to do more, and that will fix things. And that's not something that I have normally felt. So from the fog for sure, the frustration absolutely. Um, but in a pinch or in a stressful situation, I think we often revert to the way we used to do things, the way that we used to find success. And so even though I might be feeling different things, I feel like I'm wired to just keep doing it the same way because I've had success. And so making a change in that stressful moment is hard. And again, I think it takes some probably objective third party perspectives to it did for me to really get me to see things more clearly. The other thing that I found was a constant. You said fog. I think this is related. I would say a constant sense of distractedness, and it again, there's probably a similarity there where I'm just always my mind's racing. I no longer feel as decisive as I used to. Maybe I'm easily distracted, feeling like I need to do 10 things at once, and winds up resulting in a loss of clarity. All right, so we've described kind of the symptoms. What do we do? What are we going to How are we gonna solve this? How did you solve it? Have you solved it?
Yeah, I want to double click on something that you said real quick, and it ties into this, but this idea of doing more. You when when you get into that situation, that environment where you're not used to that. This is a transition, it's a new context. You're shifting away from something you used to do, or from a role you used to fill, the way you used to be. in this new role, I think it's comfortable for us to just look for things that we can do because we get quick feedback from those things that we do. Right? It's like, you've probably heard it, right? You create a checklist of things that are easy to do or you already did them just so you can check them off again, right? And that's not very productive. But it sure does sometimes make you feel better in the moment because then you can look back and say, look at all I've done. It's not my fault things aren't working. Look at all I'm doing. And the reason I want to double click on that is because something that really helped me in several by the way, transitions happen throughout your life. Like, we're not just talking about one transition. We're talking about it can be disorienting anytime you make these major life transitions, right? One of which we're talked about is military to civilian. Um, no, not a parent to a parent. One of the things that really helps me is understanding that the deeper level values, passions, purpose, identity, understanding of myself, who I really am underneath all those roles, all those areas of expertise, pilot, naval officer, dad, um, all athlete, all of those things underneath that I carry with me everywhere I go. And I cannot overstate the value of understanding that about yourself. Understanding how incredibly valuable you are just by being. Okay, so that really helps me is to when I find if I'm just doing, oh, what's the next thing I need to do? How do I find more people to work with? What's the next, post I need to post on LinkedIn? Yeah, okay, that stuff will come, but what really helps me when I'm feeling like that and frazzled, like I have to do, like I've got that fog, is taking a pause, man, taking a beat and just realizing, dude, look at everything underneath, man. The core values that I have, the core values that the skills that I had, that are innate to me, that I developed over the years, the things that bring me energy, the purpose. Like when I'm in it, like what can I uniquely bring to the table? It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's just me being. So I just wanted to double click on that, brother, because that's probably the thing that helps me actually the most. Um, I hired a coach to help me with that kind of stuff before a major life transition, before I moved from getting ready to take command to becoming a commanding officer. And that is one of the most powerful things that helped me be confident to make the decision to get out. And then through this transition, I still work with my coach, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing, and then I'll pass it back to you, maybe to go a little deeper. The other thing is having other people who get it. Like having, for us, we had Green Squad, just having 6 other people that I meet with every week that I can bring my whole self to, then boom, like you said, we can help each other see other perspectives. We can remind each other like that you are good enough just as you, the whole being thing I just talked about. Just something about being in the room with other people who get it.
I love it. I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'll add on and say that not only does having those other people in your life matter, I think what you owe that group, what I owe that group, is honesty and vulnerability, and and that's something that I struggled with for, I don't know, the first 12 or 18 months after I uh, embarked on this current journey, where I was afraid to admit that it didn't feel good. I was afraid to admit that I felt like I was failing in certain areas or struggling in other areas. And because of that, the group couldn't give me what I needed because the group didn't know where I was struggling. And man, I'm so glad that I worked through that, because the second that I started sharing honestly, openly, being vulnerable, and really, to me, that just means admitting to myself that it wasn't all rosy. As soon as I did that, man, the group poured into me and challenged me. and helped me. And I don't mean solved my problems, but they asked me thoughtful questions. They encouraged me, they helped me reframe, and they helped challenge assumptions. They helped challenge ways of doing business, literally and figuratively, that uh, had incredibly positive effects almost immediately. Um, and shoot, just verbalizing it all, just sharing that in and of itself was helpful. And so we say this almost every week, right? It comes up in so many different contexts. Being in the right room allowed you to be challenged in new and different ways. And what a game changer it's been. So, uh, if I'm thinking maybe I'll share some thoughts on what actual changes, right, in the way that I've been thinking about things or approaching things, and then I'll flip it back to you. Um, grinding harder for me wasn't the solution. That was what I was doing. It wasn't the solution. Trying a new thing wasn't the solution. Instead, seeing the problem differently, that was helpful. The reframing, the seeing the problem from a different perspective, and by reframing, I mean something that I might minimize or maximize, right? To your point earlier, right? You're going to give yourself a checklist of easy things, check them off and feel good. I guess I'm saying the same thing. I was maximizing things that felt like wins just to feel good. And I was minimizing big problems so they didn't feel bad. And when you get some objective viewpoints, maybe those things that you've over exaggerated don't feel so good anymore. But also, uh, it forces you to look at the things you're minimizing too, in a good way. So I'll flip it back to you. What else comes up for you? How do we actually work through this?
Well, one thing I want to touch on is it's so critical that we need to touch on it again. And that is, if you're with somebody else in a group like this, with a coach, one-on-one, if you're trying to get someone to understand your perspective and actually provide you with some really useful perspective, ask you useful questions, then you have to be able to open up to them. You have to be able to actually share what is really the problem or really your goal, or right. Like if you're holding anything back, it's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out. Usually we're talking about like spreadsheets and statistics and data there, right? But I think it applies here too. Garbage in, garbage out. If you're with a group and you're really trying to help each other grow, learn, and get through challenges, when you're talking about your problem and challenges, if you're not opening up, then you can't expect the questions that come back to you, the perspectives that people give you. You can't expect that to be high quality if you fed it low quality data, right? So then the question becomes, okay, well, that sounds great, but what if I don't feel safe doing that? What if I don't feel like I can do that? And that's where, when we talk about the right room, the right people, that is what we're really talking about. It's a place, a room, other people who get it, who you feel like, yeah, why wouldn't I open up and tell the truth? Why wouldn't I be honest here? Because I know all these people, they're not judging me. They are trying to help me. They care about me. Right. So I'm going to tell them exactly what's going on. And I know that they're coming at me with questions and they're holding the space because they care and they're asking questions from a place of care and mutual respect. If you don't believe that, you will not open up, most likely. Right. So there's a spectrum, of course. There's the extreme extroverts out there that they'll just open up to anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. But then for the majority of us, we're not going to tell you our deepest, darkest secrets unless we know we can trust you and we feel safe enough to do that. Right. So that's a very important part of what we've been talking about the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. Yeah. Find the right room, the right people, and be willing to share and be vulnerable. And in order to do that, You got to define for yourself what the right room and the right people are, that where you're going to feel safe doing that. Um, yeah. So I thought I would throw that in there. Did that? I don't know if that answered your question or not, Tom, because I think I kind of backpedaled a little.
No, absolutely. The if you find yourself in a place, whatever you're calling your room, your group, your people, your tribe, and if you don't feel like they are helping you uncover blind spots, or if you don't feel like they're challenging your assumptions, well, it's probably not the right room to help you work through problems. It may be great for other things. I'm not I'm not knocking what you're doing, but if you need help working through major problems, transitions, whether they're in business or life, or maybe you're in the military and you've just leveled up, taken on a new role. If the people around you that you're going to for guidance and advice, if they're not challenging assumptions, I would challenge you to think about whether you're in the right room. Um, because as you were saying, regardless of the type of transition and regardless of the type of change you're going through, you're going to have to adapt to the new environment. You're going to have to try new things. And that's great. That's where the real growth happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you're doing a great job right now, brother, of kind of wrapping it back into how we started this all off, which is what worked for you in this other context, this other area, this other arena, this other organization. Okay. Military versus civilian world. Okay. What worked for you to get you to where you were? You may find that these same things are not working. And what Tom and I have been talking about the last 10 minutes of how to help you and deal with that, we've been talking about the right people, the right room. Now it's okay. So how does being in the right room with the right people actually help you when it's time to tap into something new, a new way of being, a new way of doing, tapping into maybe some core values, skills, passions, purpose, and applying them in a new way, in a new context, maybe explaining them in a new way, in a new context. I know we have Ethan on board right now. He's a resume builder helping vets. I see you there too, Matthew. Thank you for joining us live. It's bringing that in. So now you're in the room. You got the right people, the right room around you. Okay. Now it's like, guys, here's what I've been trying. Here's what I've been doing. Here's my goal. It's not working. What's going on? And sometimes that's all you need to say. And if you got the right people in there, they're going to start asking you some questions. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but this is where it comes back to, hey, you're in a safe spot. Make sure you're in that safe spot. And now let's be real. Let's be vulnerable. Let's actually answer the questions truthfully. Hey, well, you said your goal was to have a job at this major corporation. And why is that? What's important about that job to you? What's important about that corporation to you? Right. And then now you start answering truthfully, and that's going to lead somewhere. As an example, to me, to figure out how to adapt to new environments, it takes humility, the willingness to admit. And by the way, to me, humility means extreme self-confidence, self-awareness, situational awareness, coupled with the realization that you don't know everything, coupled with the realization that you actually may have something to learn here. And so if you approach these situations in this room, these people that you're all helping each other through this like that, with a little bit of humility, it becomes, man, this is what I know I need to do. It moves from that to, here's what I think I want. Here are some things I've tried. What do you all see? What do you all think? Who's experienced this before? Right? And man, what do you got, brother?
One of the other things that happens in our group, certainly, and I hope for other people where they've found the right room, not only do you get challenged when you bring problems, issues, concerns to the group, right? You get that assistance, that support, that we're talking about, one of the other things that happens if you're in the right room, the other people are probably in the room, the other people are probably going through similar things. And you're going to learn so much just by listening. And that, again, for me has been very, very powerful. Maybe I can't even name the issue I have today, this week, this month. I can't even verbalize yet the challenge I have, but I'm unsettled. Well, I go back to the right room. Odds are somebody else is experiencing something similar. And maybe as the group supports them, I benefit just by being there, just by listening. Now, and that's happened to me more times than I can count. Happened for me, happened, because I do feel like I'm in the right room. So man, this is yet again something that's near and dear to my heart, and I know yours as well. Uh, Power of being in the right room and understanding that, hey, it's okay to change, and the things that made me successful in the past, maybe I need to let some of them go, or just try something new today. Um, yeah, this is another good one, Brandon. I'll flip it back to you to close us out.
Thanks, brother. Dude, you said that example of how sometimes just by asking questions and listening to the answers, it actually helps you learn something new that you can apply to maybe a situation you were going through, even though you weren't the one who maybe was in the growth seat, like, getting help from your peers in this room or whatever. But you were asking questions and listening and learning. And that is part of that mindset of, I can learn something here. I don't necessarily know everything, even though I'm confident about what I do know and where I am. There's always something I could learn. And when you approach a relationship like that, and you're asking questions to help this person kind of just figure out things and reveal the path they want to take for themselves, and you're curious about it, and you're not asking questions to just lead them somewhere. You're actually curious about them and how this applies uniquely to them. And this is why we think peer coaching is such a powerful skill for someone to be exposed to and to utilize, because this is what it's about. Peer coaching is about, I'm not trying to ask you questions to lead you anywhere, because that would just be me trying to project my perspective onto you and tell you that that's what you should do. And that doesn't work for everybody. What it's about is actual mindset of curiosity and actual learning. Hey, I'm asking these questions because I'm curious and I want to learn how this is affecting you, how this is unique to you, how maybe even though it seems like something I've done before, how is this different for you than it was maybe for me? So I think it's worth double clicking on that. Yeah, brother. I mean, we're passionate about this. This is something that we could talk about probably all day. However, we are coming to the end of our half hour here for Leadership Ready Room Chats. Before we close out, anything before we close, brother?
If this resonates with you, shoot us a DM. If you're curious, maybe if you feel like you're not in the right room or you want to know what other rooms might feel like, give us a shout. Text, DM. We'd love to hear from you. Because like Brandon said, this is something that we love talking about, and we're very passionate about our own room and helping others find theirs.
Yeah, brother, 100%, man. Couldn't have said it any better. Always reach out to brother. You could always reach out to me. If you're on Substack, DM me. I'll get in touch with brother. I don't know if he's on Substack. If you're on LinkedIn, we're both on there. Shoot us a message. And we'd love to continue this conversation with you. And you can join us. You can find us most Wednesdays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. I say most because, brother and I like to reserve those times for when life happens, right? Because that happens to us. And so it won't be every Wednesday, but most of them at 11:30 Eastern. You can find us right here on LinkedIn Live or Substack Live. And until then, have a good one.